I'm Glen Worthey, the US Director of our AEOLIAN project. I'm really sorry not to be able to join this roundtable in person, but I'm grateful for the chance to say a few words. As you all know, the AEOLIAN harp, for which our project is named, is an ancient musical instrument played solely by the wind and producing ethereal, haunting, inhuman melodies that are nonetheless a source of inspiration and scientific study. So too, I hope that our project's investigations into applications of artificial intelligence in the cultural heritage sector will both inspire and haunt. Current public discourse about artificial intelligence is full of questions and speculations that waft about us in contradictory, unsettled, but still fascinating fashion. Our project's mission is to build a network of thoughtful cultural heritage workers and allies, a network that now includes all of you. We will surely not give definitive answers to these questions, nor should we promise them. I hope that we even avoid the temptation to offer too many speculations. Instead, let's engage together, critically, ethically, and practically, with these questions about AI in the service of cultural heritage. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to making some inspirational music with you over the next couple of years.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, great. Great, thank you, Katie. So where would you like to start?
Oh, sorry, I just realized I didn't have my mic on. So we're just going to have some brief introductions for about 10 minutes, just to go through everybody, have a little welcome, see what everybody does, everybody's roles, what they think about the workshop today. And we'll invite questions afterwards, so we can just finish off with a lovely discussion about what we've done today and what we hope to do in the future with this project. So over to you, Lise, if you'd like to start. Or
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, you probably know me as well. My name is Lise Jaillant, and I'm an associate professor in digital humanities. And the reason I got interested in this kind of projects, on artificial intelligence applied to archives, is I'm a literary scholar by training, and I really struggle to get access to born digital archives, and so not only born digital archives, but also archives that are closed for many reasons. It could be like copyright or other reasons as well. So I really got interested in this question of access, and of course artificial intelligence can be a great way to make those collections more accessible. So I started working with a wide range of people. So we started the Aura network with Annalina Caputo last year. It's a UK Irish network funded by the HRC and the Irish Research Council. And of course, now we have this AEOLIAN network, which is also funded by the HRC on the UK side and by the NEH on the US side. So it seems to me that there's a lot of interest for this kind of interdisciplinary conversations, because just at the moment, it's so difficult to find solutions to those big questions without engaging with other disciplines. So, that's why I'm so happy to work with a wide range of people, as part of Aura, as part of AEOLIAN. I have other projects at Loughborough as well, working with computer scientists and, colleagues from a wide range of disciplines. So that's, very exciting for me, really, and I'm very grateful to have this kind of opportunity. So perhaps I can hand over to someone on the US side, perhaps Stephen Downie, who could say a few words as well.
Hey, hi, and welcome everyone. Yes, so in my worldview, as sort of was mentioned earlier by Thomas in his great talk, I originally came at this problem from the music information retrieval world, and because my background's in music originally, and now it's evolved a little bit more on the digital library side, the digital humanities digital library side. And the one thing that has been intriguing me along these lines is making these systems that will be AI based, but make them such that they unlock otherwise hidden collections. The one lesson I always bring about in my digital libraries classes, as much as I love digital libraries and technology and hacking and stuff, our clients are patrons that are searching for knowledge and wisdom and culture, they're not there because of me and my digital library or my AI algorithm or my spiffy system. They're there for the content. They're there to experience the culture and the objects and their history and or other people's histories without me being in the way. So I think the one thing that we really need to strive for, and I hopefully the conversations will evolve around that, is the idea that we need to make we got to forefront the users and we got to forefront the content, with AI being as invisible, I think, as possible. But anyway, that's my stance, and I'm sticking to it.
Great. Shall we move on to Annalina, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Lise. Okay, so the reason why I'm here is basically I've always been interested in access to information. So I have very low memory. So for me, being able to retrieve information has always been a key in my own success. And I've always been curious about how to make a system that could improve this. So I talk in general in terms of information access, but I'm referring most of the time to information retrieval and search engine, and more recently also to recommender systems. So, and I'm passionate about language. So during my career, I tried to combine these two things together, how language can be harnessed for the sake of accessing information, which means basically most of the time try to figure out what is the best representation for text, and more recently also for other type of digital content like video and image, in order to make them accessible. And most of the time, this means like working at a sort of a semantic layer, so being able to represent the content of digital artifacts in a way that is interpretable from a machine, so that they can understand what is actually the content and context of that discussion. And this is, when I think about the general user, most of the time I think in terms of someone that doesn't really know the collection, for which actually accessing that collection is even a more difficult task, because someone that knows the collection very well, they know how to query it, what are the keywords that may be the key to access this collection, while a person that neglects the overall content may use terms and keywords that are not really the most efficient for retrieve that piece of information. So this means, and is translated in so many types of different tools. So actually, when I think in terms of artificial intelligence, this is such a broad term that it can be instantiated in so many different aspects, tools that we use every day without even realizing. And I agree with Stephen, like AI being transparent. We don't really know, but we know that we can rely on it. And I think this is an important point connected to such much of the discussion today, like the reliability of this instrument, like how much we can trust this. And I was also wanted to connect with Thomas' keynote in terms of collection, like coming from IR, I have also this strong background of standard for testing. And I agree, like there should be some digital humanities effort for trying to make things more reproducible, because I think like if we aim for making some tools available for the whole community, we need to overcome some limitation connected, for example, to the fact that some collections have very specific aspect, and we need to make this machine learning algorithm more general as possible, which is not most of the time the case. So we need some collection for testing these and checking their capabilities.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Annalina. Shall we move on to Paul, perhaps?
Yeah, thank you, Lise. Hello, everybody. I'm Paul. I'm a senior lecturer in information studies at the iSchool at the University of Glasgow. And I kind of come at this from my area of interest, which is largely and very briefly defined as sort of investigating access to and usage of digital collections and digital resources. And that's sort of the AEOLIAN and the objectives of the project really touch on two areas that have come up in projects of mine. So I've led a couple of projects in recent years. One was looking at the impact of non-print legal deposit in the United Kingdom, which was taking a very user-focused approach and was kind of looking at this problem. What we're dealing with here isn't just a technological problem. It's an ethical problem. It's a political problem, and ultimately, it's a people problem. It's actually, when we really boil it back to the basics, it's actually about humans and how we interact with and see the world. And one of the aspects of that project that came out was that, there's steps before we get even into these conversations about barriers to the usage of collections in certain ways. Like legal deposit in the United Kingdom doesn't allow you to do text mining under the regulations. So when we're talking about things like openness, it doesn't even come up. And that was one thing that came out. Sorry, I'll go to the other thing and then I'll go to that thought. And the other project that I did, which was looking at sort of trying to lay a framework towards creating a data set of digitized text, was touching on it from the other perspective of trying to use machine learning to do some matching of very disparate metadata collections, like the British Library's 19th century I've forgotten the original librarian's name, who I've totally forgotten on the spot right now, but his very, very particular British Library 19th century cataloguing versus, much more contemporary cataloguing standards, and trying to do to match similar items despite that. So I kind of come at it from both perspectives, but sort of touching back on that point about openness that I was previously making and linking those projects and my interest to some of the stuff that's been talked about today. It was really gratifying for me, because so much of what I'm interested in, this human factor, has come out today. There's been a lot of debate about the implications for cultural heritage professionals, for those working in collection holding institutions, and the way that those things change. And I hope that that's a conversation and a thread that's going to continue over the next period of the period of the project. Panitsi, thank you, Nora. Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking of. And also one of the other threads that was two other threads, and then I'll hand over, because one of the threads that was really nice to see and really emphasize that human perspective that I think is so important to these debates around AI and machine learning. It started from the very start of the day with Giles's talk, and permeated the whole thing, the benefits of things like open data, open collections, and open software. That Giles project was a really good example of that, where they were relying on open data through the NLS Data Foundry, and the software that group was producing was also open. And that human aspect, the ethics that we already have as a community towards making things open and accessible, are hugely important. And then the final one is, I think my perspective is, as I argued with my non-print legal deposit project, the user perspective in many respects is almost always underrepresented. And I kind of see myself as here to make sure that we don't continue to make that mistake. And I think it's clearly something that a lot of us are conscious of. And it was also slightly depressing but slightly unsurprising to see Thomas's meme that he created with the from that graph, and to see the user influence all the way on the right hand side is a really minor concern in machine learning debates. And I'd love to see us through this project, if we were to do a meme based on publications coming out of this network. Wouldn't it be nice if the user influence was just shifting towards the other side of that chart? And I would see that as a real success if that was the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Paula. Shall we move on to Ryan, perhaps?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Dubnicek. I'm a digital humanities specialist with the HathiTrust Research Center. Delighted to be involved with the entire event today and catch a lot of Thomas's wonderful talk. I think I'm most interested in what AI can do for us at the scholarship level, while hopefully remaining transparent and remaining something that we can encourage wide participation in. One of the things I enjoy about bringing technology to the humanities is to hopefully widen the field and to build other skills that may not traditionally come along with humanities research. So I'm very excited about AI on that front, though always a little bit worried about the black box of computers and AI in general. So very much agree with Stephen to keep our humans centered in these systems, and excited to see what the great minds in this field will develop in the next few years.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ryan. And finally, Claire Warwick.
Hello. Yeah, I think Paul said it, basically. It's what he said. No, but seriously, Paul and I have known each other a long time and work in the same sort of field, so that it's no surprise that my areas of interest in many ways overlap with Paul's. I think, therefore, what I really want to add to this is that another of my my particular areas of interest is this question of the relationship between physical and digital information behavior and the way our minds work, as well as the way computers work. So as Paul said, it's very heartening to hear a lot of people talking about user aspects of this, but also this question of, how big can a data set get? And, how big should it get? And what are the costs of that? And one of the things I'm interested in is how people comprehend digital resources. How, even in classical, if we like to call it that, HCI research and digital library research, there are questions about how can people comprehend the scale and the arrangement of a digital collection in the way that they so easily can by looking at a library shelf. The sense of the scale of the collection, how much do I know, how much do I not know? Of course, that's still not been solved in digital terms in the way that simply looking at physical books is. But when you come to AI, then you multiply the problem even further. And it is known that scholars in the humanities really actually do need to know about the scale of the collections, the trustworthiness of the collections, the trustworthiness of the methods. And so I'm increasingly interested in how can we evaluate the trustworthiness of the use of AI, both in the sense of maybe less sort of technical back-end stuff, but also how much do our users understand of it? How much do they trust it? Do they need to understand it or not? After all, most of us don't bother about going beyond the first few hits in Google because we have a sort of instinctive sense that PageRank somehow works. But this may not necessarily be the question in AI. And I'm intrigued by some of the pushback that we're seeing now from, as it were, the user community. For those of us in the UK, there was an enormous row this time last year, just about when people leaving school had their leaving exams, instead of sitting exams, they had them graded by what the media wanted to call an algorithm. And this, of course, it was more than an algorithm, but this caused a huge outcry because people basically felt that they or their children were not getting the proper experience of leaving school. And they felt that, if those exams had only been graded by teachers, they would have been more trustworthy. And indeed, this year, the algorithm has been entirely abandoned and all of their exams are going to be graded purely by teachers, which is somehow seen as more acceptable. So I think this is I'm sure people can see how this meshes in with what we're thinking about in this network, this question of how do we know what to trust when we can't touch, when we can't see, when we can't understand the extent of a collection or how AI works on it? And how do we deal with the kind of the distrust of non-human methods that may come up as a result? So that's really my area of interest.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting that, trust is a very big issue in this. And because everybody is sort of in their own stages a lot of the time, you don't see that user at the end making those questions that actually, do need to be answered, but they don't know who to ask and you don't know what the user wants. So I think it's so important, and the point of this whole network is to kind of bring all these people together to have this conversation and see what needs to be done. There are some questions just appearing in the chat. So if you do have a question about the project or about the team, we've got about 10-12 minutes until the end. of the workshop. I think Anna Maria Moras, Stephen sort of answered your question already, but maybe we'll open it up to the group about how do you plan to use AI to open data? Does anyone want to take another stab at that, or Stephen, do you want to sort of elaborate for everyone?
I'm never shy on talking, so yeah. So as Glen has spoken about earlier, and actually helps lead the way at the HTRC. There are in the Hadi Trust about 6 and change billion individual scan pages, representing some almost 18 million volumes. And volumes are also a bit problematic as a count, because within a volume could be an entire journal run. So many issues and many things along those lines. So there's a lot of locked in knowledge, locked in information that sits, unfortunately, 2/3 of it sits under copyright, and you really can't dive in there all that much. So we've been actively over the last 5-6 years, and Ryan's on the call too, so Ryan can correct me at any time. We've been taking some off-the-shelf entity extraction algorithms in some places, some geolocation algorithms in some places, language identifying algorithms, and building up parts of speech when they exist, and building up this open data set of extracted features that is legal. We have the legal precedent to do it, and it's totally open. So if you want 4 terabytes of word counts for every single page in the Hadi Trust up until about 6 months ago, it's theirs. Take it. It's in JSON. It's easy to manipulate. We have some tools that can help you find some of these things that you might want, but take it, use it. And one of our active programs right now is to start looking at new features that we could run the algorithms, then release the data for folks to play with, to explore, what's on the page, look at captioning of images, all that kind of stuff, just to help folks unlock, especially that 2/3. But even in the public domain, winnowing through what is 1/3 of a billion or 6 billion, 2 billion pages. 2 billion pages is a lot of pages to go flipping through in a PDF viewer, trying to figure out what's on that page. And there's all kinds of groovy things on these pages. There are maps, there are images, of course, right? There are, paintings and drawings and charts and, yes, all kinds of good music. That's the one thing that one of my pet projects is trying to find the music within the collection. So is that helpful? And I also thought we got a ping from Grant, if I'm saying it correctly. And Grant, yeah, we have some tools, and we can talk if you want to talk about some more of the nitty-gritty about this. We have some Python notebooks that we use to help parse through the extracted features and so on. So and Ryan's one of our experts. Ryan actually helps teach folks how to use these things. So we're trying to standardize it. We're trying to create an ISO standard for extracted features so that other cultural institutions can run our little suite or their own suite of extracted features, and then the data would be compatible so that you can mish and mash a book about a painting that has a journal article someplace can all get link dated. Yeah, that's I think it was Paul was mentioning link data earlier. Big fan. I think AI and link data are going to live in harmony.
Are you able to search those individual sections? I know obviously Giles was talking about searching for just images. That technology is there. So are you able to separate searches like that?
The Hadi Trust itself at this point is not very good at locating images, but we have a tool called the Word Set Builder where we can actually search for individual words and their part of speech, and whether it's a header or a footer or the body and other aspects along those lines. So we're getting there. It's a lot of data to manipulate, and getting the hardware to actually manage the data is one of our ongoing challenges. Because putting all of this on AWS, we can't afford the bill. That's
I think that's something that comes up a lot, isn't it? That just
right. I mean, this is going to happen to all our partner institutions. Getting that whopping AWS bill, where oh man, seriously, how many zeros at the end of this bill?
Do we have?
Can I just come in on that question as well?
Yeah.
I think Stephen's given a very thorough answer on the use of AI. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of the other things, which is that the openness is both a value and a form of license. As we all know, and I think actually in many respects those aren't necessarily things that fall under the purview of artificial intelligence to do for us. They're things that we as individuals and as a community should be looking to embed in our practices and address ourselves. So I think there's again this answer of what these discussions lead to in terms of sort of a communal sense of what it means to be open, and what helps both our internal practices in making our collections more open, but also helps people utilize these collections once they are openly available.
Yeah, definitely. I am a researcher myself, and just being faced with those millions of hits when you put a search term in, it is quite daunting. And I think, as you know, learning to actually refine, learning how these things have been categorized, you know, to actually precisely find what you were looking for is so important. And it is, yeah, usability. Is there any more questions? I mean, feel free to put in the chat. Otherwise, we've got about 5 minutes left. In which case we could possibly talk about the future of where we would like the AEOLIAN network to go. You know, what we see long term. The project is running over the next 2 years. We've got a number of different workshops happening as well. So I didn't know if Lise or Annalina, you just wanted to have a.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Katie. So the first thing I'd like to share really is the link to join our mailing list. So if you're not a member of the mailing list already, please join us. That's the best way to keep, to receive updates and to know what's going on. So as Annalina mentioned this morning, we have several workshops, scheduled in the next few months. We try to alternate between the UK and the US. So the next workshop is going to be organized by Auburn University in the US. And yes, so the program is really on our website. We try, I mean, it's a network, so we really want to hear from you. You know, we want to get really this discussion going on, really. So, so I think, if there are no other questions, perhaps we can end here, but I really want to thank everyone, all the speakers for joining us today. I want to thank Katie, who has done so much work organizing this workshop. That was great, absolutely great. Thank you so much, Katie.
Minimum technical difficulties.
Thanks to all the investigators as well, Annalina, Stephen, Paul, Claire, Ryan, and Glen, who couldn't join us for our last session, but who was here earlier. I want to thank also all our attendees. We got some very good questions in the chat as well. So that's also, part of the success of this event. So thank you so much for engaging in this way. Okay, so I think we are going to end here, but final point, we are going to share the recordings on our website. So if you're part of our listserv, you will receive some updates about that. So thanks again. Thank you so much, everyone, and hopefully see you at the next workshop. Thank you.